So let's apply that to the Confederate battle flag. Let's say God gave that to you and I. Now, I know back then it was given to everybody who fought. I understand that. But they're not fighting today. The Civil War is over, and yet the flag is still here. Who, according to the Bible, ought to grab that flag and say, let's cherish this thing and tell the truth about it. Let's hang on to it, those that fear God. And yet, how ironic it is, most Christians, in most cases, Christians are the last people when anything to do that flag because they're scared. They're scared. If I fly that flag, or if I'm seen associated with that flag, if my church has that flag, somebody's going to think this, yeah. Got a bunch of little sissies, little wimps that are scared of a little bit of persecution, a little bit of possible persecution, and because of that, they run from it. And then the true cause, which is what the rest of the verse says, the true reason for the flag, suddenly just vanishes from history and everybody forgets. And that's why you walk up to the average person today and say, why was the Civil War fought? Well, to free the slaves. Why does he believe that? Because God's people haven't held on to the flag and told the truth about the banner that was given to them. They haven't told the truth about it. I'll get into that more later. I'll show you some very godly associations with that flag. Thou hast given a banner to them that fear thee, that it may be displayed. Why? Because of the truth. Implying what? Somebody's going to be telling some lies. And what you need to do is take that banner and fly it and use that as an occasion to speak out about the truth and tell the truth. See? Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to take a Confederate flag and put a flagpole in my front yard and run that up the pole and have it flying in my front yard. I won't do that. You say, why not? Well, for one reason, I don't have an American flag that way. We had one, and it kept, one wear out, and the wind blow it off. One thing, it's just, every time you turn around, the thing's getting messed up and something going on. So we decided just, maybe put flags on the vehicles and things like that. But if I did that, an American flag in your front yard, there's no confusion or controversy about that. It doesn't take any great patriot to put up an American flag. I mean, it's a good thing to do. I don't speak out against you for it. But nobody's going to look at that and think that you're anything but an American when they see it. With that one there, you put that up, and people are going to look at that. Some folks are going to think, well, amen, I like that. Got some guts around here for a change. Somebody else is going to look up and think, he hates black people. Those are racist. You say, well, I wouldn't care what they think. Well, Paul said, I won't do anything that causes a man to stumble, weaker brother to stumble. You say, well, won't that happen when you put this back there on that wall back there at that table? No, it won't, because there's information right there that explains why we've got it displayed. I can't explain to everybody who drives by my house why I've got it displayed out there. They're going to form their own opinions without ever even speaking to me or seeing anything that I have to say about it or hearing what I got to say about it. If they go back there and see that one, they can see why it's there. See? And Psalm 60 verse 4 can be fulfilled. The principle of that will apply and will work. See? So that's why I don't have one in the front yard. I'm not condemning anybody that does. I mean, God bless them for having it. I have no problem with that. It's just that me as a preacher, I believe, I need to guard my testimony, and if I can avoid people spreading lies about me, I need to do that to some degree, And why invite controversy when a little bit of an explanation along with that flag would stop the controversy, see, would cut down on it. So that's why I got one on my vehicle, because it's right there. Maybe I get somebody say something, I get a chance to say something to them about it, But man, they'd be at my house, I'd be at work, and the thing flying out there, they think I'm a Klan member or something. I want a chance to explain why I fly it. See, I want a chance. Had a guy just the other day. He was quick when I said something about having a Confederate flag. That's the first thing he did was jump at the opportunity to explain to me why he had that flag. Why do you have to do that? No. If you say something to somebody about an American flag, they don't do that. They don't say, well, let me explain to you why I have it. Well, we know why you have it. You're an American. But with that flag, it pretty much requires an explanation. And most people don't have the opportunity. There's lots of people believe just like we believe. They just don't see the opportunities to explain why they have it, so they think, well, I'm just going to back off of that. See? So I say seek out opportunities. Seek out ways that you can still stand for the flag and promote it and not confuse people, but hopefully explain to people and explain what it's for and what it's about. Now the verse says, because of the truth. That means there's a story behind the flag. If a country has a flag, that they have a story to tell. I could take this flag right here, the American flag, and I could just go on, and you could too, about stories about that flag. You could tell about battles that flag was in. You could talk about Francis Scott Key, you know. You could talk about the American Revolution. You could talk about 1776, the Declaration of Independence, and just go on and on. You can talk about the generation that won 2 world wars fighting for that flag. You can go on and on about it. See? You can talk about certain relatives that you know that were buried, maybe covered in that flag. And you can just go on and on about things, stories about that flag. You could talk about the Pledge of Allegiance. You could talk about that. You could talk about the Supreme Court issue out there where at California, where they've taken out God's name and all that with that one nation under God. They took that out, you know, and decided, one challenge, to leave it out. Said, nope, we're not going to put it back in, we're going to leave it out. They just recently said that. You could go on and on about that flag and talk about it. So that's a good banner to have. Why? Because of the truth. Anywhere in this world, that flag right there stands for freedom. Now, if somebody wants to use it in a wrong way and criticize it and misrepresent it, those are the exceptions. Generally, throughout this world, I don't care what country you're in, you know that flag means freedom. You know that flag does not represent communism, tyranny, and people coming in from other lands and invading you and oppressing you and slaughtering you and wiping you out and imposing their form of government and making your people live under their form of government against your will. You know that flag doesn't mean that. And you know, in order for that flag to come into your land and lead people to come in and take over your land, you've got to be a pretty dirty devil like Saddam Hussein or somebody. See? Otherwise, that flag is a flag of freedom. People understand that. Why? Because of the truth. There's a message behind that flag. Well, what people don't understand, there's also a message behind this flag. And it's not about race, it's not about hate, it's not about bigotry. It's about freedom. It's about people that believe just as much in freedom as the people who believe in that one. In fact, I'll give you a quote later. I've given it to you before, in fact. The reason this flag flew in the 1860s and took people into battle in the 1860s is the exact same, not similar, the exact same reason this flag flew in 1776. There's no difference. The reasons are the same. It's just that the twist and the politics and all the stuff has perverted the truth. And God said, let that thing fly because of the truth. So there's a message behind it. What do you think of? If you drive up somewhere and you see a Confederate, what comes to mind when you see that flag? We know what comes to mind when you see this one, but what about this one? What do you think of when you see it? What comes to mind? What if a child asks you, say, Mama, what does that mean? What's that flag for? That's not an American flag. Well, what is that flag? See? What does that flag represent? See? I just pointed out today what the 3 stars on the Tennessee flag meant. I just pointed that out to somebody a while ago, what that's for. Good to know those things. That's just good thing, you know, good knowledge to have, good things to understand. What does this mean? What is this thing all about? Let's get somewhere with it. You say, well, I know people that use that flag, and this thing scares me because I see it connected with the kind of people I just don't want to have anything to do with. Listen, I see the Bible connected with the kind of people I don't have anything to do with. I know people that believe in baptismal regeneration, that believe that Jesus Christ will never set his feet on earth again, and he will never rule on this earth again. I know people who believe that kind of stuff, and if you're not baptized, you're not going to heaven. I know people who believe that and have the exact same word-for-word Bible that I have today. Does that mean I need to get rid of my Bible because they have abused it? No, the Bible tells me they're going to do that. The Bible tells me they're going to wrest the Scriptures to their own destruction. It didn't say they're going to wrest some other book. They're going to wrest God's Word. They're going to twist God's Word and mess with it and mess it around, and so that the book that I have has been used for their advantage. And God said, don't worry about it. You just stick with the book. So what do we need to do with the Confederate flag? Get rid of it because somebody abuses it? No. Just keep on standing on it and exalt it even higher so people can see the truth like never before. Many people run around talking about, Robert E. Lee and General Lee this and General Lee and, all this and that. The fact is, if General Lee was here today and could see the way the Confederate flag is being used by some people, he'd start another civil war, I believe. He wouldn't. Stonewall Jackson, you think those men would like to see that flag? I was at the flea market yesterday and just going around there seeing some of the associations, the connections that were being made. I mean, just obscenities, ungodly language, put on T-shirts. I mean, not saying bad things about the flag, but just the way they would say it. They'd put the flag up here and says, just for example, stuff like, if you don't like this flag, then you can blank, 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 stuff like that. General Lee would have never said that. Now, I understand the attitude. I understand the attitude is, we have a right to have our flag, and if you don't like it, too bad. Well, I agree to that. And General Lee would agree to that. But he wouldn't agree to cursing and profanity. And he wouldn't agree to off-color sexual, implication type humor and stuff like that. I've seen just, weird stuff like that, stuff that's wrong and wicked. He wouldn't go along with that. So people like that are not doing good. They might think they're promoting the Confederate flag and continuing the heritage. They're not. They're altering it and changing it. So we don't need to go along with that. We don't need to promote that. I don't condone any of that kind of stuff. But I do condone the kind of beliefs that General Lee had and Stonewall Jackson had, and those men who fought for the flag, they fought for something worth fighting for. And I believe if we'd been there, we'd fought too. I don't think we'd sit around watching the show. I think we would have got involved in it. Let me give you some things, 7 points actually, about when you see a Confederate flag. That's the title of the message. When you see a Confederate flag, some things that ought to come to mind, some things you ought to think about, and just let it register in your mind. Number one, when you see a Confederate flag, think of the good cause for which it flew. Think of the good cause for which it flew. I mean, why did it fly? Did it fly because a bunch of people wanted to, get a whole new thing started so that folks could run around and have it in the back glass of the pickup truck and get drunk, and listen to Hank Williams Jr. and stuff? Is that why it flew? No, that's not why it flew. The flag flew. Some even opposed, and I don't have any problem with it. I'm not going to, get this picky about it. Some even oppose using the term Civil War, and they have good reason for it. They said the reason is it was not a civil war, it was a war for Southern independence. Technically, they're right. I mean, I'm not going to, split hairs with people and fight about terminology, but the fact is, you get back down to it, that's right. It was a war about the Southern states saying, we have a right to pull out of the Union because we don't like what we see happening in Washington. We see the election of a socialistic president. We know what he's going to do. We see the things in process. We see what's going to happen here. We're getting out. Of course, South Carolina, they headed away and got out. They said, we don't like what we see. Well, that's what happened in 1776. We said, we don't like what's going on. We're getting tired of King George. We don't like that. It flew for independence. That's a good cause. I'm an independent Baptist. I understand a few things about independence. Andrew Jackson said this. He's a good Southerner from Tennessee. Let's hear what he had to say. Our government is not to be maintained or our union preserved by invasions of the rights and powers of the several states. Its true strength consists in leaving individuals and states as much as possible to themselves. I believe that. I want the government to stay out of my life. I want them just to leave me alone and let me do my thing. We didn't even have an income tax before the war, Civil War. It was after that thing that this stuff began to happen.